Hey everyone, Abraham here. Just letting you know that before we start this episode, we recorded this originally in one whole piece, but decided later that we wanted to divide it into two episodes. So what you're going to hear today is just part one of a two-part episode on self-management. And then next week we will release part two. So hope you enjoy. Welcome to Why We Do What We Do. My name is Abraham, and I'll be your host.
And I'm your co-host, Ryan O.
And so we're tackling something that is, I think, we're on this kick right now of strategies to help you. This isn't meant to be like a self-help podcast, but these ideas felt related and the stuff that we were talking about recently. So we felt like we could do some good overlap and all that. So all that is to say, we're talking about self-management.
Yes, self-management is very near and dear to my heart.
Cool. So mostly, I think you have a lot to say on this, and I'll probably let you take a lot of the lead because you have some great points to make. So let's just start by talking about what do we mean when we even say self-management? What does that refer to?
Okay. So I talk about it's just like patterns or things that we do to help us achieve what we want to accomplish or experience in life.
Cool. And I had my own thing that I sort of came up with, and based on my experiences with this word, and we talked about this a little bit before we started, but self-management is like so much of what you do. It's almost everything you do.
Yeah.
So I narrowed mine down a little bit to like it's changing or regulating your own behavior.
Okay.
But even then, it doesn't have to be just changing or regulating your behavior. And I also realized as I was preparing for this that there's a self-management where you are the one who initiates the process, and then there's self-management where other people try and initiate that process in you.
Call that intervention, right?
Yeah, like an intervention.
Yeah.
And I give one example I thought of was your dentist trying to get you to floss.
Yeah.
Like they want you to self-manage that process.
Yeah.
You come in here and I have to clean your teeth and your gums bleed and you complain about how much it hurts and like this would not be the process if you would just floss. Yeah. And so they, but obviously at least not the dentist I've ever been to, really set up a system of like, here are the things you need to do to be better at flossing.
Yeah.
So again, I don't want you to come into this thinking that we're going to teach you how to be a superhuman and walk out of here and you're like, all right, now I know how to diet and exercise and I'm going to have a perfect relationship and get good grades and make a lot of money. But hopefully have some tips and strategies that we can talk about.
And on that point, there's two things. The first one is there's a lot of research out there that I think is relevant that doesn't seem relevant.
Sure.
So really, I think like almost everything I've read in my field, like I feel contributes towards helping somebody when it comes to self-management. So it's very hard for us to draw the lines on the research here.
Yeah. There's almost, as I was looking at almost an overwhelming amount of research that's been done on self-management.
Yeah. And like my thing is like if you don't include self-management in your search terms, I feel like a lot of our field is completely irrelevant.
Sure.
Because it's kind of that, how do you conceptualize why something's happening?
Yes.
And can you kind of see through that lens of understanding why something's happening in your own life so that you can then make some changes towards it, right? So
actually gave me a sort of epiphany as you were saying that part of the utility of tackling the self-management thing is that a lot of people might have the question of why do I not do something?
Yes.
And so we can get at the not do something by talking about the things that you are doing and how to regulate your behavior around that.
Let's make sure to really bring that point back up. Actually.
Okay,
great. I did not include that in the notes, and that's an extremely important part.
Sweet.
Yeah, so the other thing that I was thinking of is you kind of alluded to this, like everything, you're not going to be a superhuman. I don't think there's a superhuman out there, really.
There's no perfect human.
Yeah, and we'll get into that, like the very nature of moving towards things that you like you can't do other things, like it's a competing response, so you just can't actually do all these things all the time.
Right.
Now, I also think that, what I was saying, that there's a lot of, it's unclear where the literature is, the lines are and like what's really effective in our literature, and I think a lot of it applies. I think anyone who is out there that is a motivational speaker, right? Your Tony Robbins, your Gary Vaynerchuk's.
So they're all over the self-management thing.
Yeah. Anybody who is a company that's a platform, or maybe Amazon, Google, Apple, those folks are kind of platforms for apps and products.
Yeah.
They're out on the marketplace. What is it? Individual. That's pretty much the main ones, right? Okay. Individual kind of technology. I'm trying to think of other kind of ways in which people try to like kind of interact with self-management sort of things to try to help you out.
Well, I think even a common one people have is just like using. I have a planner sitting right here. My
Yeah.
planner has my schedule in
Okay.
it. That's a way that I self-manage by. I try and be organized about my schedule.
Yeah.
And so like these tools are just everywhere.
Yeah, and I guess yeah, that's perfect. So like, it doesn't matter what they look like, but there's cultural things that we're trying to move towards. So I'm gonna say like, here's your tool, try it out. My point is, nobody's hit that on the head. Like,
Yeah.
no one solved that problem.
Right.
That's the
no one's got
reason
the perfect
there's-
solution. If you come to some motivational speaker and like, I want to learn how to have a perfect diet and always just want to
Yeah.
eat the right foods.
Yeah.
Like there isn't a perfect solution that's like, boom, here's your treatment, go home and be a better eater.
Yes. Yeah. There's and if you even look at the one guy that I'm really into is Gary Vaynerchuk, and he's in the business world where he does a lot of an entrepreneurship, really, where he talks a lot about kind of motivating people. And he says, like, I'm going to go out there and try to get a certain number of people motivated, and I'm not going to reach everybody.
Yeah.
I truly think that he thinks that he can't motivate everybody, and also he kind of draws lines on like, I'm only going to do X amount to try,
Right.
which I think is totally respectable. That's okay.
Yeah. I think you gotta know like what your limits are.
Yeah. There's nothing out there that solved this problem, like at all, and like that.
And there might not ever be something that can just completely solve this problem.
That's not even like your $1 million or $1 billion idea. That's your like $1 trillion idea. Like the day that's solved, everyone will be very happy on like how to motivate and kind of self-manage these sort of things.
7-minute abs.
Yeah. So yeah, to not get into it too much, there's a lot of components that go into it, and no one's really hit it. So maybe we can start and jumping into where I've kind of like grouped it into like what kind of goes into self-management. Does that sound cool? I've got 3 kind of main points.
I want to hit a couple of things on a little bit more on just like what we're talking about, what self-management is.
Let's hit that first.
Yeah, and just to get out of the way, this idea that if someone's good at self-management, it's important to acknowledge that like this is a learned thing.
Yes.
You do not come out of the womb being good at self-managing. And granted, there's going to be people who are going to have an easier time with this than others, but like this, you really have to develop specific skills relevant to your specific circumstances. These are going to be relevant to your culture and to your even like your upbringing and the household that you're in. So the extent to which people show up and they have really great self-management strategies, and you look at those people and you're like, man, this person can like do anything. They wake up early, they go to the gym, they eat healthy, they are always on time to work, and it's you look at that and you want to say they must have great genes, and maybe they do, but like those behaviors that they've picked up to do that is a totally learned process. So don't look at your own terrible behavior and think of like oh, I'm just screwed because I was born with terrible self-management skills.
Yeah, exactly. There's a term I like that I've been into recently. It's called macro patience, micro speed.
Okay.
The idea is like
fun.
Whatever you want over 5-10 years, something crazy like that, right? It's going to take a long time.
Okay.
Move fast in the day-to-day. Try to work on bettering yourself as much as you can. And I think that's been a nice way to kind of think about it. Just macro patience, micro speed.
Okay.
How can we kind of like work towards these things, but realize that it's going to take a lot to really get these established kind of patterns.
Figure out how to be patient and that sort of thing.
Cool. So there's all sorts of applications of self-management.
And so I guess I'd actually kind of like to hit a list of like common examples of where people like to try and do self-management, and then get into some of the stuff you talked about.
Sure.
So some places that, and I've already alluded to some of these, that people are going to practice or try to practice self-management are like super commonly with exercise. That's a huge one. If you've seen those Couch to 5K programs, people who get like running apps, and a lot of these running apps have built-in things that they try and get you. Like mine has an alert that says, hey, you ran this time yesterday. Do you want to run again because it's that time again today?
Yeah.
Like, no, not really. But dieting is a huge one. Finances is a really huge one. I mean, that is, I think, $1 billion industry. I don't know the numbers on this, but I'm gonna speculate wildly and probably without any foundation. No, finance. Diet is too, but that finance is this huge industry of people telling you like how to save money, how to better invest your money, and because everyone wants, most people struggle with this. They want to be better with their money, and then general organization things of like how do I keep my house cleaner and how do I schedule things so that I'm using my time more efficiently. I know someone personally who they would schedule their free time breaks in their planner because they're like, I won't take a break if I don't schedule a break. Yeah. And they were like hyper organized about that.
I do that myself, actually.
Yeah. I used to. I have since taken a back seats to that and just sort of gone with the flow. But And then, as I sort of mentioned, the cleaning and organizing and chores are another thing that people do a lot of self-management. And there's like 100 more examples.
Yeah.
You can get really, really narrow or more broad, with a lot of these. So, all right. Sorry, I took up a lot of your platform. Go ahead and jump in and tell us what you got on this.
Cool. So, yeah, I've kind of come to an understanding of like 3 kind of larger areas that kind of helps me understand how to use this stuff, I guess.
Okay.
And not only in my own life, but how to convey it to others and help others out as well. So the first one would be what I call values. And by values, I don't look at getting too into what is a value, what's not a value.
Sure.
My point is there are these things that you can't have or hold. You can kind of freely choose them. So a good example would be something like health is what I usually bring up. I can't pick it up and hold it and show you and say, look, Abraham, I've got my health. Look how healthy I am, right? Like, where is that?
It's a 10.
It's a 10, yeah, right?
I see 10 health.
Yeah, 10 health is it because I only have 1 hand up. It should only be a 5 health.
Let's play Zelda rules. It's like 5 hearts worth of health.
Now, so what they are is they're really these like ongoing dynamic kind of evolving and patterns of activity that you kind of continually do. So healthy eating, right? Exercising, going to the doctor, all those things kind of consume what health is, including all the measurements and targets that a doctor could have, and et cetera.
Relatively broad. And then you said not going into like what values are, but they're not goals. You don't accomplish a value. No,
you cannot accomplish them by definition, is how we talk about them. And they're really they're valued in and of themselves, like by the person. Like they're very close and near and dear to you. And the pursuing them should be worthwhile or feel worthwhile. Right. To some extent. Anything else on values?
No.
Okay.
That's pretty good. I mean, because I think those are going to continue to come up in some of our other topics.
Yep.
And we'll clarify. But I think just specifying where they fit inside of this idea of self-management and setting goals is relevant. Yeah.
Yeah. So values, the idea of the self-management is, so identifying your values is really the first step, is what we talk about. And it's kind of, typically it's going through, and I can link to some of these sort of things, common things that people like to move towards, that people enjoy in life, and like to experience. And you kind of work through what are these sort of things that we call values. And really the basic steps, usually just writing down the ones that are important to you and reflecting on how important are these to me, and how have I kind of been working towards them in the past. However long, 3 months, 6 months, year, whatever.
Okay.
The goal there is not to get dwelling on what you have or haven't done. Just recognize where you're at, and then what changes you want to make.
Okay, so you're not going to like spend a whole analysis of how have I ruined the last year of my life.
Yeah, no, or 10 or 20, whatever it is. Like, the past is in the past. All you got is the present. Like, where are we at? What do you want to change now?
Live in the moment.
Right? Yes. So, yeah. The next part actually is real well, like how are we going to actually work off of those values and those sort of things.
Okay.
So
I had a note in here about like barriers to the goals. Is that something you're going to tackle later?
Barriers to setting goals?
Yeah, well, barriers to like the goals that you're trying to accomplish, like identifying what kind of behaviors you're doing that get in the way of you meeting some of your goals, and the things that also facilitate those barriers.
So let's bring that up after some of the goal setting best practices.
Perfect.
That sound good?
Sorry,
okay.
I just want to see where you are with that.
Perfect. No, that's a perfect place to add it. So what it means to have a goal, I think, is a quick starting point. So a lot of times people say, I think we're really good in our culture. I can speak especially for the United States of America, where I'm at.
Yeah.
I can't speak so much for other cultures.
And I think we even, in my experience, narrow this down to like a West Coast culture, because I feel like there's some variations across.
Oh yeah.
And I guess even a slightly urban version of a West Coast culture.
Yeah, I'm based in Reno, Nevada, so there's very much a difference between the West Coast and where we're at compared to some East Coast places. Yeah. So with that in mind, I think this does apply across a lot of the U.S. though. Is I think we're very good, and I'd be willing to bet a lot of the world. Like, we're very good at talking about goals, introducing the idea and the concept of like you should have goals and you should work towards them. But I think we're very good. We're not at the point where we have a very fail-proof way of saying here's how you accomplish your goals.
Yeah, definitely
goals,
not.
Right?
Yeah.
So with that, I've come to realize like you can say like we need to work towards our goals. We can explicitly state them and kind of work through them.
Yeah.
So goals, I really look at function a few different ways. They can be something that you say, and you're going to follow them because somebody else is really pressuring you to follow them.
Yeah, the flossing thing.
The flossing, we do that a ton in education. Like, you need to learn this because it's important.
Such a good example. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so much of education that sort of way. And it's I get why it can be very good.
Yeah.
It can also be not very good sometimes as well, right?
I think, and it's also, maybe this is a little off topic, but speaking from my experience as a teacher, once you identify how your role of I'm telling you this, you need to learn it, you need to do this, what that feels like on the receiving end and on the delivering end, and looking at what the teacher has to do, what they're obligated to do, and what they feel like they have to accomplish is not necessarily in line with what the student wants, what the student values, what they want to accomplish. And so it can turn it really quickly into this coercive process of just, I'm going to threaten you and I'm going to manipulate you and I'm going to coerce you until I get what I need so that I can do my job.
Yep.
And so I think having this approach of really recognizing, I understand that you are your own person and you have your own values and your own goals.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm going to try and work those into what I'm doing.
Yep.
That's been a helpful approach for me, and I definitely get the feedback from students that they appreciate having that sort of approach with them.
Yeah. So it really comes down to your history also with that specific person and what they've provided you. That's what kind of where this rule kind of comes from, like saying you should do it because of X.
Right.
It comes down to the person who's giving you those rules as well, right? So I can easily see your perspective on what you just said there, and I have that philosophy on like approaching almost every single clinical situation I'm ever finding myself in, and helping people out. There's things that come to mind though, in which it's very good to have that sort of rule. So my dad has been extremely well at when he offers certain types of advice, you need to follow this. He uses that very specifically. It's always paid off.
You got dad voice.
Yeah, and when he's suggested in a certain way, it's like I need to do this, and I understand that this is going to be the best option for me because he's learned otherwise, and he's very good at delivering those rules.
I need to figure out how to do that
in certain ways. And even as like I'm now 27, 28, that's this thing I still follow, and I could see it being a thing that I always question, but my history of that success with him giving me those rules has been a very big thing for me to kind of like, it's a good goal to kind of follow, I guess, if that makes sense.
Sure. So now, your learning has been that when this particular person helps do that, provide the self-management from the external side, that actually can work to help have you change and regulate your behavior differently.
Yeah, and doing it for the sake of someone else has said to do it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Which is okay. Like, it's totally okay to have your actions be in the pursuit of things that are valuable to other people as well, because those can be in line with your values still.
Yep, exactly. Cool. That's what you're getting at.
Yeah.
You can even say to yourself, like, I'm going to follow this because I'm going to do it for myself.
Yeah.
Those also fall in this category.
And I think, in your opinion, does it help to recognize that? Like, who am I doing this for?
Yeah. That's huge. That's actually, I'm going to lead right into that.
Oh, sweet.
So the next, so there's two other things real quick. These sort of goals can be represented, like we said, in like kind of these ways where people talk to you and say you need to do it because of X. It could also be like you're going to do it, but you're going to take into account the other things that are happening, the other data and information that's available to you.
Yeah.
So maybe these are always things that I'll be told something specifically like you need to do. I find these a lot in business situations where it's way to handle X in like management or
so from a manager position or someone who's being managed.
Someone in both. I find them very relevant to both.
Oh, perfect.
It's harder in the managed position because you're being managed.
Right.
Right.
You're on the receiving end.
Yes.
I want you to do X thing.
But what it is you follow the rule, but you take into account the other information that you know may or may not affect you following that rule really well.
Okay.
So let's think of a real world example. So someone says the best way to get fit is by running a lot. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to run a lot.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm going to shed some weight and get really fit.
Right.
But then maybe what I do is I realize that my friend that's into physical therapy, physical training is what I meant, knows of some best practices actually how to lose weight faster.
Gotcha.
So he recommends something like high intensity interval training.
Sure.
This is an example from my own life. He's like, you need to try this HIIT training. That'll actually help a lot. And lo and behold, kind of read in, and the literature shows, it's not clear, I don't want to get into that, but like it does help some people on like fat loss and kind of getting those sort of goals faster. Okay. So with that one, it was like I was given a rule, but I took into account this other information and data that kind of shaped what it was. And again, that could be someone else externally providing that to you, or you internally giving yourself some sort of goal and then realizing that you need to kind of alter your approach towards solving that goal based on your success or failure.
Yeah. Okay.
In the moment unfolding.
So So you get sensitive to your own sort of consequences and your reactions you learn from it that way.
Yes.
Cool.
Correct. Now, the last one is what we kind of talk about is like goal statements that motivate. So these things are really purely just to like push you and get you doing something. I am historical for doing a lot of these sort of things.
Okay.
So what I do is I'll set a ton of really unrealistic goals.
Mm-hmm.
But not unrealistic. They're pretty unrealistic, but they're things that
That's
I could
true.
potentially achieve.
Knowing you, I can say that's true.
And so I set the bar really high. And the reason is I'll get a lot more done than if I were to set the bar low and just achieve that.
Okay.
So what I would
feel
rather...
like my experience is somewhat different for myself just because I feel like I get overwhelmed really easily.
Uh-huh.
So it's like if I feel like I'm trying to accomplish something and it gets too big, then I'm just like, I give up.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are that way. I don't think my like approach is always the best.
So you're just a weirdo.
Well, yeah. I think there's definitely people out there that it works for.
Sure.
Like,
No, I'm just teasing.
The constant kind of chaos and pressure of I need to achieve this and work towards it. It's so fun and it's so rewarding to kind of like try to work towards those sort of things.
Sounds crazy.
Yeah, I used to get a lot of flack for it in my grad program because it'd be like, you're setting all these unrealistic goals. And I was like, but look how much I'm getting done.
Yeah.
Right? So what I do now is I try to set like what is my minimum and what am I going to try to strive for, and I make sure that I'm hitting those sort of things.
Okay.
So I just want to hit a couple quick things on goal setting, and then we can bring in
Sweet.
What you were talking about. So like you said, like we kind of mentioned, the biggest thing is your goals. So real quickly, your goals, there's a lot of different formats out there. One of them is SMART goals. So there's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely.
Okay.
That's a format in which a lot of people have kind of run to, especially in the business world, of how to write them. So
the difference, acronym.
Yeah, SMART goals, right? The idea would be that I could write something like, I'm going to get healthier. But is that very specific on what I mean by healthier?
Right.
Is it measurable? Probably not in the way that I wrote it.
So goals are different from values in that goals are specific actions that can be accomplished.
Yes,
okay.
Perfect. Is it realistic to be healthier? Yeah, but like the way I wrote it, is it really realistic that I'm going to like find that healthier thing?
It reminds me a little bit of the Common Core standards for education, where it has very clear, like, these are the things that need to be accomplished, but virtually no idea how to accomplish them.
Yes.
It'd be wonderful if everyone could do this. And what now? What?
Yeah.
Do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Like, your goal is healthy. Just get healthy.
Yeah.
Just do it.
And I skipped the A on attainable, the way we wrote out, I want to be healthier.
So
that also, it also kind of misses that. Like it's hard to say when we've obtained the healthier, right?
Yeah.
Or attained it. And then the last one would be timely, and without a timestamp on when we're trying to achieve it, it's hard to measure progress.
Okay.
So if we wanted to use that, there's a lot of people who've talked about it.
Is that like setting deadlines, or just saying that the goals you set are small enough that they can be met relatively quickly for a sense of achievement?
Both. It could be either. That's how they've used it. I think I think both are valid approaches for your situation. Try to pick one and go for it.
Excellent.
So the point there was that I could have something like I want to be healthier, or I could have something like, let's think. One of them that I have right now is that I'm going to run 25 miles in a group relay race up in Tahoe, California.
Yeah.
It's actually the Reno Tahoe Odyssey. Never done it before.
Oh, okay.
But like what it is I think that's enough of my goal statement there.
Okay.
Kind of end it there. But what it is, it's very specific on where I'm going to do it, what I'm going to do.
And when it's going to take place.
It's measurable in the distance and the time and the day. It also brings in the timely. The realistic and attainable is a little bit more questionable. It's really kind of more based on like how much I've been running and exercising, which I've been doing pretty well. So it's something I'm going to have to really strive for, but I can do. Now I've just created something that is actually fits within my healthier domain.
Mm-hmm.
It is, so it's lined up in those values, and it's something that's a goal that I can achieve. I can kind of check off.
So all of that was looking at self-management inside of the context of you have a value and you have a specific target to go toward. And as something you mentioned before, but we haven't brought back up, is like knowing what your starting place is and like the steps to get there.
Yes. Perfect. So I
actually had a similar, sorry, just to jump in because you reminded me of this. A few years back, I decided I was going to train for a half marathon. And I had never run more than 3 miles in my life. Yeah. And I was like, 13 miles is no human being can do that. And so I found online a training schedule where it was just like, these are the distances you have to run on these specific days. And I printed it out and I taped it to the like hutch of my desk. So in this big office, this big group office where all these desks were, there's 25 other people in there and they can all see each other's desks. And for the most part, nobody pays attention to what anyone else is doing. But under the fact that they could see my progress, every day that I ran, I would go in and mark it off. And like,
Yeah.
sure enough, in a few weeks, I was up to running 8-9 miles. I got all the way up to 10-11 miles, then got all the way up to my half marathon 13
Nice.
mile distance. And I ended up not even signing up for the race. And I just ran it just on my own. I put in an audiobook and I went running for like, an hour.
There you go.
And it was really cool because I was really trying to look at the self-management aspect of that when I did it. I'm like, man, this was crazy. I never thought I'd be physically capable of doing this.
Yes.
And here I am every week spending hours out running.
Yep.
And I'm like, it just works. And it fits within my life. And I'm hitting these goals I have. And I think that something you mentioned, what was a really important process was, first of all, I knew exactly how far I needed to go each time that I ran.
Yep.
And I had specific days that I ran on, so I planned my schedule around that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had sort of involuntarily enrolled my coworkers by having that visual posting of I had to go and like check it off that I had done it. And I have since fallen way off the bandwagon. But the fact that I ever accomplished it in the first place made me feel like, man, I actually
super cool.
Yeah, I could do this thing if I really put myself to it.
My first like running story is like very similar. I was like, I just never thought I could do this.
Yeah.
I set it up in graduate school. I kid you not, found like a app that told me like how to kind of build up. It wasn't for a half marathon. I did not follow it super well.
Yeah.
But what it did is it got me just enough engaged into it and just far enough where I realized that like after 2 or 3 miles, your whole body doesn't actually feel horrible.
Yeah.
And when you can kind of consistently do it.
That's the trick.
And that you can actually enjoy it a bit, which is weird.
Yeah.
It's always a rough start still. But it always, kind of did that. So, you hit on a few things I just wanted to hit real quick, which is you have to identify things that you're currently doing.
Mm-hmm.
Which you talked about, like where's my kind of baseline at, like what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's 2 parts there. It's important so that you can judge how well you're doing in the future, right, and where you're trying to get to.
That's a great point.
But it also, we so much times focus on the bad stuff and things we don't want to do, and we need to pause and like, this is what I am doing in my life that is related to this, right?
Yeah. Going back to that idea, there's a whole lot of why am I not doing this?
Yes.
But that doesn't tell you a whole lot. It doesn't really give you a lot of direction either.
Yes. So you kind of hit on that. The next one would be, we didn't really hit on this, but like I can tie it into my goal statement of like the running one.
Mm-hmm.
And yours, for example, you set a bunch of smaller goals and you kind of tier those goals.
Yeah.
So tiering those goals, biggest thing I've found is just relying on someone that knows how to help you set them in that specific area can really help out. So what I call that is like a subject matter expert. Okay. They're always very useful for anything self-management related. So they know the topic very well and they know the area that you're trying to learn very well. Mm-hmm. And what that'll do is just practice and getting some reps under trying to actually tier your goals out will very much, I've learned a lot from that process. I tier them out. I'm like, that didn't quite work. Maybe I need to do smaller, bigger, tiers on what I'm kind of working towards. And then learning from your errors. I think that's a big kind of philosophical point to kind of look at. Like, we say this thing a lot of times, like the learner is always right. Yeah. And the idea is like, not necessarily that you know the best thing or like you're the subject matter expert necessarily, but what you're doing because of the circumstances around you. Learn from it. It's information. Don't hit yourself really hard over the fact that you're not doing what you want to do. Try to understand those triggers and those things that are kind of going on.
I love that from the educational standpoint of this whole thing of don't ever make errors. And while there is some like good research on when you build a habit or a tendency to do it correctly the first time, then you don't have to worry about going through correcting it later. But there's actually so much utility in making errors and mistakes of like where you mess up that teaches you so much about the things that you now need to avoid. And if you hadn't had that experience, then you wouldn't have the opportunity to make your behavior that much more resilient to changes in the future. So you're setting yourself up for success by allowing errors to happen and then allowing yourself to learn from those mistakes. Yeah.
And that kind of ties us into like learning from your errors, then kind of ties you into you can do is you can actually, especially all these, like if you have kind of an idea where you're at, and kind of blending that learning from your errors, you can start from a very small approximation of where you want to get to. Okay. And so, for example, if I know I can go out and run 2 miles and I can make it back to the house, I might actually set my goal for like 1.5 on the first 8.
Because it's a low hanging fruit. Like you can definitely do it.
Yeah, and I kind of build off of that. So I'm going to go up and down, and you see like a lot of those running programs actually do that. They go up and down, and
that was what Exomen did.
Yeah, and I don't know the extent to which I know that's important physically for when you're training, but I would be willing to bet that it would be really fun to study like really long term. But I'd be willing to bet that has some behavioral components in there too. as it makes it a little bit more achievable.
Well, I was going to say, one of the things, as we were talking about the running thing, I noticed, and you mentioned as you get to that 2 mile, you like get used to like 2 miles, the awfulness of that, is part of the good things that can develop inside of self-management when you get into, is when you feel you're getting into a good groove of things. And that is sort of metaphorically related to the running, because it's like once you have that good pace, you can just maintain that almost indefinitely.
Yeah.
I mean, until your body literally gives out. Like you can just keep going. And I found that even after I had run that 13 miles, I kept running 25 miles a week because I could get out there and get into a groove of running that just like, it felt actually kind of good. It was part of my routine. It was part of this system that I had established for myself. And so do you find that in some of the stuff you've talked about and you've learned from self-management, that once you get into that goal setting mode and you're hitting those goals, that knowing that you don't necessarily always have to be under what you're shooting for, but have a good system where you're being successful and you're hitting goals and you can continue to move forward, but not necessarily always be like, it's never good enough, I'm never there, you know?
Yeah. Personally, it's worked out pretty well for me.
Okay.
I think some people...
You like that I'm never there sort of thing?
I kind of like it. I know some people can totally wreck like what they're trying to accomplish.
Dangling the carrot. So if we didn't mount a stick on you and just have a carrot on one end, dangle in front.
I'll run at that carrot all day.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I'll give up pretty quickly. I'll just break the stick.
Yeah, that's funny. So the last one is that I want to bring in that you brought up was in your example, and that I can tie to mine too, is creating a support network of people around you. So a support network quickly is just folks that are around you can trust to kind of help you out with your goals and things you want to achieve. And you talked about your coworkers were inadvertently kind of brought into it as kind of like, in a way, kind of like that support network, that kind of folks that potentially could be watching. For me, this crazy relay race, like if you ask me, like, do you want to run? It's still unsure. Like we don't have a complete team, so it might be 18, it might be 24 or so miles. But if you like ask me, like, do you want to wake up and just spend 30 hours with a team just running? I was like, that sounds horrible. And like as I talk it out, like
no,
it doesn't sound
Thank
fun.
you for asking, but no, I don't.
I know that the social part's gonna be extremely fun. It's gonna be 30 hours in a car with a bunch of people, and it's a very kind of intimate experience of going through something that I've never gone through before, which is like an area that I really value in life actually, is like going through these sort of things. But the fact that I found a team, signed up, and now I know that there's 10 other people, or 9 right now, that are like relying on me to do my part, that's why I'm gonna wake up at 4 a.m. tomorrow and go for a run. It's not going to be easy, but it's part of like what gets me out of bed and keeps me going. And so the support network part is a very crucial part as well. And I think there's one thing I want to really, or a couple things I really want to hit on that, is your support network. I think oftentimes will also do the same thing where they focus on the bad too much. And so it's very important to create a very nurturing process.
Sure.
Let's sit down. Let's see where we're at. Let's talk about strategies on how we can change and move forward. Let's not make that a negative experience, right?
Yeah, that whole like drill sergeant approach of this is how you get people motivated and this is how you get the kind of behaviors you want to see. It can work to an extent and for some things, but we've sort of found in the research and through experience and whatnot that like that isn't actually the most effective approach.
It can be temporary. It can work extremely well for people.
Yeah, and it can jumpstart the kind of things you need to get needed. But in the long term, like you're going to get happier, more committed people who are really dedicated to a certain thing when you have that nurturing environment that really is supportive and not just like, I'm going to make sure you create a place where you're just afraid of being beat down all the time.
Yeah, and some people thrive in that environment.
Okay, so sorry that ends a little bit abruptly, but we're going to wrap it up there for this week, and be sure to check in next week for the second part of our self-management episode. Thanks.
You've been listening to Why We Do What We Do. Why We Do What We Do is supported in part by ABAI's Disseminating Behavior Analysis Special Interest Group and our amazing listeners. If you like what you heard, consider heading to our Patreon account at patreon.com/WWDWWD podcast. Anything helps, and we are continuously lining up perks and merch for our supporters. If you have any comments or questions, we'd love to hear from you. Find us at WWDWWD podcast on your favorite social media platforms. You can learn more about this and other episodes by going to www.wwdpodcast.com. There, you'll find links as well as detailed and shareable show notes. Why We Do What We Do is Abraham, Ryan O, and Miranda. Artwork and logo design by Andrew Pollock at nogdesigns.com. Video and production assistance from Tyler Brasier with music courtesy of Justin Greenhouse. Brendan Bohr does our episode art. Thanks for listening, and we hope you have an awesome day.